Hey there guys, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an early impression on Crawl, developed by Powerhoof, and available on Steam at the regular price of $10. Now Crawl is an early access game, so I do want to remind the viewers out there that if you are interested or curious to Crawl, definitely check out the Steam page on the game, as by the time you watch this video, things could have changed, new features could have been added, etc, etc. So do keep yourself up to date, and the link will be in the description for your convenience. Anyways, what is Crawl? Well, essentially, to put it in a nutshell, it's a competitive multiplayer dungeon crawler, which is very, very interesting to say the least. Alright, now this is a multiplayer focused game, and unfortunately, for the time being, as of this recording, there is no online component. Yes, that's right, it is only local multiplayer. We'll talk a little bit more about that down the road. Let's actually get into the game. Alright, so there's a profile, AAA. Now, if we are playing on our lonesome, which we are, you can spawn in bots to fill in the place of playable characters, which we will do. The AI is not terrible from my experience. I've seen worse in games, but I have noticed it some of the time that they're doing some funky things. But I've only played under normal difficulty for AIs, so maybe they're better under harder difficulties, but there you go. At least you have the option to play with bots, but we'll talk a little bit more about the multiplayer components and how I feel about that down the road. You can select different characters and they'll have different kind of mobs to spawn in. And the whole point of the game is to, essentially, it's an XP race. And it's very interesting in that if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you'll be quite familiar with Dungeon Masters or DMs, where they'll spawn in mobs and set traps for you to kind of hinder the player's progress. In this game, the majority of the players are actually kind of like DMs in that they can spawn in mobs and activate traps to hinder the player's progression, kind of like in the Dungeons and Dragons. And the whole point is to collect as much XP as possible. And the player with the most XP at the end of the game will essentially win. Alright, now, as you can see, I'm a ghoul right now. I'm actually the blue ghoul, I'm not the player. I can't actually hurt the player directly. I have to collect these power pellets that's kind of floating around, these little yellow things. And when I collect enough of them to fill up my bar, you'll see a colored pellet floating around me. That represents how many mobs I can spawn in. I can also turn myself into a mob where I can directly attack the player through these summoning signs, which we'll do now. Let's see, we're a skeleton right now. And now we can directly actually attack the player. Now the thing is, you can only collect XP when you are the playable character, when you're the player himself. And in order to actually become the player, and not the ghoul itself, is if you can land the final blow on the player. So if you kill the player with the final blow, whether through a passive mob that you spawned, just like that, like I spawned this blue blob here, or through attacking them when you're, when you turn into a mob yourself, or through becoming a trap, or activating a trap that kills the player, then you'll actually become the player, and you'll have the opportunity to start collecting XP as well. So it's kind of interesting in that way. Now, because of this, you think that all the ghouls are on a team, they all have a common goal of killing the players, and we'll all be like high-fiving and hugging it out and all that sort of stuff, but it's not really that way. Even though the ghouls have a common goal of killing the player, so they themselves can become the player, and start collecting XP, which really matters at the end of the game, you're in competition for the power pellets that's floating around, because, you have to actually collect a pellet in order to charge your power meter up. And you're also in competition with each other to land that final blow on the player, because whoever lands that final blow is the one that gets turned into a player, which is a very powerful and important position in this competition. Alright, so even though that you are kind of on the same team, you're still very much competing against each other when you're the ghoul. So as you can see, it's a very interesting dynamic between all the players involved. I almost kind of want to call this design, this competition that they kind of come up with for this game, like symbiotic competition. Because everything you're doing in this game both hinders and progress all the other players. Alright? For example, because of the dynamic of this game, it presents some very interesting strategies. When you're the player, you want XP, and in order to get XP, the ghouls have to spawn in mobs. The mobs are obviously there to hinder your progress, but at the same time you need them in order to get XP. And the ghouls, even though you would think are on the same team, are very much in competition with each other. Because, you know, you have to race for the power pellets as well as the final blow on the player. So that's what I kind of mean by a symbiotic competition. Everything you do both hinders and progress all the other players in the game. So that's very, very interesting. Now, in between each level, you have an opportunity to level up the mob. So if you didn't level up as a player, which unfortunately we weren't able to do, you can still level up your ghoul and make your ghoul more powerful, giving you a better potential of becoming the player, as you'll have more powerful tools in your belt, I guess you can say. So right now we're going to level up the skeleton, so we can do an archer. And there you go. So even if you do kind of fail at, you know, having the opportunity to become a player, which really matters, you at least have the opportunity to progress your ghoul, having a better chance of killing the player. Alright, so it's kind of interesting in that it's a very asymmetrical kind of competition, as you can see. It's 3 against 1, but even the 3 is still competing against each other. It's very, very uniquely designed, I have to say. It's very, very compelling. It definitely features a lot of unique strategies that I haven't really seen from other video games. And it's fun being both the player and the ghoul, I have to say, because as a ghoul, it's kind of interesting that you have all these different tools and assets at hand. You know, you can activate traps, you can spawn in lesser mobs, you can become a greater mob, and you have to kind of strategically, you know, attack the players. Because if you waste your spawns, then all the player is going to do is gain XP without you actually hindering the spawns very much, which is not what you're going for. And as a player, it's very, very challenging because you have three players against you, and a bunch of traps while you're still trying to progress through the game as you would in any dungeon crawling RPG. So as I mentioned before, it's a very interesting dynamic. It's very, very uniquely designed. It's actually quite wonderful, I have to admit. Very, very interesting. This is one of the most unique competition I've actually had the chance to play, which is good, of course. Let's see, alright, we're the players now. We're able to land the final blow. So we're going to try and kill the mob. The level do lock unless you kill all the mobs at certain points. And we're going to progress through this dungeon here. But yeah, the competition is very well designed, very unique, as mentioned before. The graphics are quite wonderful, as you can see. The pixel art is gorgeous. Very, very well detailed, very well designed. Cohesive theming, all of that kind of good stuff. The animation is quite nice as well. And the best thing is, even though the pixel art is quite detailed, the assets, the visual assets, are still very readable. You can tell what's interactable, you can tell what's important and what's not, and all that sort of stuff, which is obviously a very, very good thing. Now, I do kind of want to talk about this room. If you reach level 10, you can progress to the boss, and if you kill the boss, you essentially win the game. But you gotta be level 10 first, alright? So that's about it for that room. Hopefully we'll actually get to the boss so we can kind of explore that a little bit. But as far as aesthetics is concerned, this game got it covered. It's quite gorgeous. I'm pretty sure you guys can see that already. Pixar is quite nice and quite readable, as I mentioned before. And as far as sound is concerned, the music's quite nice. Hopefully I got the volume turned up loud enough that you can hear it. And the sound effects are actually quite well designed as well. Very appropriate. Very retro, kind of 16 bits kind of sounding. Nothing to get on my nerves. All very, again, well designed. Overall, the music in the game is quite nice. So yeah, as far as aesthetics and as far as game design and audio is concerned, this game got it. This game really does. It's actually very intriguing, very, very compelling, very interesting, and most importantly, very fun. And that's very, very important. We just lost our human status, which is a bit unfortunate. Now let's kind of talk about the online, or not the online, but let's talk about the multiplayer component a little bit. We kind of talked about the multiplayer mechanics, but we actually haven't talked about the actual multiplayer aspect. We're the trap right now. We're trying to mess up the player with spears, but we kind of failed on that front. But anyways, yeah, so local only, no online. That's a bit unfortunate, because this game is really fun even with just bots. I have to say that. It really, really is. But at the same time, I can see myself getting bored of it. It's so interesting, so much fun. I'm so compelled to want to play against other players and see what they can do. But I'm in a bachelor situation. I'm unable to do it. And that's a huge portion of this game that's originally designed for that I'm missing out on. It's really, really unfortunate. And I think that's going to be a huge sticking point as far as value is concerned for a lot of players. Now, there's other, what you can call successful indie games that have went local only. For example, Towerfall Ascension. I'm pretty sure that's one of the prime examples that will come to a lot of people's minds. And I'm not sure if you guys have read the developers' thoughts on why they chose local only, but let me summarize for you, okay? Because I have read it. Basically, the game, as in Towerfall Ascension, the developers stated that they want to emulate the old school feeling of couch gaming again. That they want players to interact with each other face to face and enjoy themselves like they did back in the 90s and 80s and all that good stuff. Sounds great in theory, but the real truth in practice is you're limiting player options. That's great that you're saying that, but that's really a personal philosophy. In the end, in actual fact, what you're doing is limiting the potential of the game's growth. You know, without the online feature, you're limiting, you know, the potential of an audience that would otherwise would have. And you're also, more importantly and most unfortunately, is that you're limiting player options. Let's say I really like couch gaming. Okay? I love couch gaming, sure. But I'm living on my own now. I'm doing my own thing, and all my friends are living away from me. And I can't play with them anymore. You're limiting that option from me, and that's really unfortunate. I can get a similar feel for couch gaming if I use Skype or TeamSpeak, but that option is completely redundant and completely not there for me because of the way Towerfall is designed. I'm really hoping, now the reason I bring that up is because I really disagree with that philosophy. I really disagree with how he's looking at it. I think it's just an excuse to not deal with having to put in or dealing with the online aspect of video game development. And I'm talking specifically about Towerfall Ascension, okay? That's my thoughts on that. The reason I'm bringing that up is because I'm really hoping that's not the same reasoning behind this game's local multiplayer only. I'm really hoping that it is currently only a development issue, that they're getting to it and it's not quite there. This is early access after all. That I'm hoping that this feature will be implemented eventually, that it's not because of some philosophical reason. Not because the developer wants to quote-unquote emulate the couch experience. Because I don't want that. I want the option to play with my friends from away. I want to experience this game with other players, because the game is a lot of fun. I'm going to just say it right now. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very compelling. It's very uniquely designed. It's so interesting. But I haven't had the most important experience of the multiplayer aspect, which is very, very unfortunate. Oh, right, we're actually going to reach the boss, which is great. Now, we can actually control different parts of the boss, which is very, very interesting, between his head, his tentacles, etc., etc. So I'm really happy that I can show off that aspect of the game. But anyways, back to the multiplayer talk. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I want to see online from this, and again, I'm really hoping that's not because of some kind of philosophical reason, that it's because of a technical limitation, because it's not part, or because they're getting to that part of the development cycle. If that's the case, I'm really looking forward to further updates to this game, but if it's not, I really hope the developers take a second thought on that, because I think this game is unique enough, well designed enough, high enough of a quality, even as this early stage of its development, that it can garner a cult following. I think it has that potential. It's really enjoyable, very, very unique. But it needs online. You know, that's the thing. Now, right now I'm a tentacle. I'm just kind of shooting up bubbles as crowd control from orbs controlling the eyeball, and we managed to kill the player. All right. But yeah, that's really my thoughts on the multiplayer aspects of the game. Again, it really needs online. Hopefully we'll see it. I hope the developers see this video and see how much I want it. How much I want to play with other people in this game, because I really do. This game is a lot of fun, and I'm missing the most important aspect of it. And that makes me really, really sad. So hopefully that will be a future update. Hopefully that will be a thing for this game. And more importantly, I hope it's not because of again, a philosophical reason that they're trying to quote-unquote emulate the couch experience. I'm hoping that it's a technical limitation right now. So yeah, there you go. That's essentially Crawl in a nutshell. Very interesting, I have to say. Something else I should mention is that even though this is in early access, I feel this game is well fleshed out. That's quite stable, quite bug-free from what I've experienced, and quite unique and interesting enough that any further updates will feel more like bonus content than the early access game subsidizing obviously missing features, which is unfortunately a lot of the case for early access games. Luckily this game doesn't feel like that. Again, it does feel very finished as is, and any further updates will feel again more like free content, which is fantastic, of course. Quite enjoyable. Whether or not this is going to be worth $10 or not, that's really going to be up to you. I think the lack of multiplayer online currently will be most people's sticking points. Because I have to admit, even though I am enjoying it, even though I'm in awe of the uniquely designed mechanics of this game, I can definitely see myself getting bored of this game very, very soon, because all I'm playing against is bots, which is kind of boring after a while, once I actually get over the gimmick of the design. So again, without the online, whether or not this is going to be worth your $10, it's really going to be up to you. But if you do have local people around you, whether you're living in a dorm situation with roommates, or you have a spouse, a girlfriend or boyfriend, or a wife or a husband, or if you, let's say, have a brother or sister, or you have a group of friends that get together regularly to play games. Especially if you like D&D, because everyone's actually a dungeon master, which is really interesting. I really think you should check out this game, especially you have local people around. But without it, that's really going to be it's going to be up to you. It's going to be whether that $10 value is there for you is going to be your sticking point, because it doesn't have online currently. But that's about it, guys. Very interesting. Needs online. That's really, to sum it up, my final thoughts on this game. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys found this informative. If you did, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comment. But most importantly, help me grow, feed me my vegetables, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Aldershot out.